Hi guys. Yes. So in my last video, I did say that I was going to do a follow-on video that would explain about resolution and PPI and DPI. And that is what we're going to do. But with some of the feedback that I've got from the previous video, some of the questions I've been asked, I feel I need to backtrack a little bit and just go through something with regard to sensor size. And also I've decided that unless I'm going to make this video overly long, I'm going to have to do it in at least 2 parts. Right, so here we go with part 1, and we're going to be just backtracking ever so slightly, just temporarily, not for very long. But I told you I'd get my money's worth out of this diagram that I made. So in the previous video we went through some cameras and we were looking at pixel per inch resolution all being equal. We were looking at how big the native images from the camera printed, and the one question that did seem to be coming back to me with regard to that little bit was, well, what happens if it's a crop censored camera? Well, I mean, really and truly, when I did the comparison between a Fuji GFX 50 and the Nikon D850, so if I just turn that off and I pull those up, yeah, you can see that the two images on the long edge are, or the two cameras on the long edge, you've got the same pixel dimensions, exactly. And the only reason that the Fuji GFX is 50 meg and the Nikon D850 is 45 meg is the aspect ratio of the Fuji GFX sensor is boxier, more square, so it's deeper on the short edge. So this little rectangle here, yeah, is the extra 5 meg, or represents the extra 5 meg. So that should have addressed the bigger, smaller sensor thing, but seemingly not. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn these off, and I'm going to turn on this image here. Right, so what we're doing is going back to 3 identical, well, they're not identical Nikon cameras, but 3 Nikon cameras which were roughly out all at the same time, and they all had pretty much identical megapixel counts, but one was a full frame FX sensor, which is this, which is the D3, and you can see that it is roughly somewhere between A4 and A3 native size on its long edge. We then have the D2XS, which I still reckon is one of the best cameras you can have for doing macro photography. Its sensor is so fine detailed, and the anti-alias filter works, but it is so fine. The sharpness and clarity and detail of macro images shot on a D2XS is as good today as it always has been, and it is really cheap to buy. And you know, I mean, if you can get a couple of batteries and a charger for it, stick a Sigma 150 or 180 macro lens on it, as long as you're not after massive megapixel counts. But anyway, as you can see, it's an APS-C sensor, which means it's only half the surface area of the D3 sensor, but the image natively is as big, if not fractionally bigger. And we can also go to the D300 there, which again, 1.5 crop sensor, 4288 pixels on the long edge, just the same as the D2XS, and both of them slightly bigger than the D3, because the D3 was only 4,256 on the long edge. So fundamentally you can see that two cameras that both had crop sensors, APS-C, have both got the same roughly native size image as a D3, which was a full frame sensor. So I hope that answers that little question. It doesn't really matter whether your sensor is big or small. It's the number of megapixels or photosites that govern the native size of your image. Alrighty. However, I just want to run this little ditty up your flagpole. D3. So let's turn that off. And let's come to the old D3 image. Now, the D3, the imaging area of the sensor was exactly 36 by 24 mil. Now, 36 millimeters on the long edge is like 1.4 something inches. And it's got 4,256 pixels or photosites on the sensor. So if we go and pull up a calculator and we go 4, 2, 5, 6 divide by 1.4, can't remember what, but I think it's 1.417 actually, but anyway we'll just call it 1.4, equals 3040. So pretty much the actual resolution of the file that came off a D3 camera, I don't know if I've got one. Yes, I have. It's my D3. Yay! Look at that. D3. Cracking camera. Yes. And a few bob that camera has, I'll tell you. But that camera spits out a native image, doesn't it? A raw file. And that raw file, its actual resolution is the same resolution as this sensor, which in this case is approximately 3040 PPI, the first P being photosites per inch, which roughly translates to pixels per inch. So your starting image isn't 300 pixels per inch. Oh, no, it's not even 240 pixels per inch or 360 pixels per inch. No, it is the number of photosites per inch on the sensor. That is really the true resolution of the image that comes off your camera. But nobody ever talks about that, do they? But when you think about it, 3040 dots, because that's what a photosite is. It is a dot, a light sensitive dot on the overall sensor. And so that fundamentally is the resolution of the original capture by the camera. Okay, so hopefully that's given you point number one, food for thought, and has cleared up the fact that the physical size of the sensor doesn't really matter when it comes to how big the native size of your image is. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quit that now, and I'm going to go don't save, and I'm going to come to Lightroom temporarily, and thank you Neil for sending this image in. I should actually be out photographing red squirrels with Neil this morning, but the weather forecast for where we were going wasn't looking brilliant, and of course I'm a tight arse and I won't do anything unless I think I'm going to make some money out of it, and I couldn't see me getting any photographs of red squirrels that were as good as what I've already got, so I cried off. And I wish to God I hadn't, because I speak to Neil, email, etc. quite frequently, but I haven't seen him face to face for years, and we have a right laugh when we get together. So Neil, if you're watching this, or when you watch this, because I know you will. Sorry I wasn't there, mate. Maybe I made a balls up. I don't know. Maybe you're getting snowed in and frozen in and drowned out and not seeing any squirrels. I don't know. But let me know, buddy. Alright, so anyway, I go wobbling on and digressing. So here we've got this goshawk of Neil's, and the reason I'm looking at this image is I'm going to show you two things now. And it's something, or these are two things that a lot of people seem to get immensely mixed up over. And the mix-up always seems to come with the misappropriate use of the word upsample, and sometimes it gets interchanged with the word upres, or upping the size, upsizing. And I'm going to use this image to show you the difference between those two principles. So first off, I'm going to deal with upsampling, which is leaving the image size alone in a pixel dimension respect, but changing the pixels per inch resolution. So we're talking about images for display on a screen, JPEGs you put up on a website, etc., etc. Because there is a really stupid thing that still gets recommended to this day, and anybody who recommends it is a bloody idiot. People stress about putting their images on a website in case people right-click, save as, and print it out. Yeah? And that's all to do with resolution. And what we're going to do is take this image, and we are going to go File, and we're going to go Export. And I'm going to export to a little folder on my desktop called Neil's Goss, and we're going to export this as a JPEG on its long edge. It's 16 pixels, so we're downscaling the image, and we're going to do it at 300 pixels per inch, and we're going to click Export. So that one is 300 pixels per inch. So the next thing we're going to do is come back over here, and we're going to go to the File, and we're going to go Export, and we're going to export this image to the same folder at the same pixel dimensions, but this time we're going to do it at 30 pixels per inch, and we'll go Export, and we'll go Use Unique Names, and there we go. So now what we'll do is we'll go File, and we'll go Export, and we'll do this one at 3 pixels per inch. Export, Use Unique Names, and this is going to come as quite a shock to a lot of people. And we will now come back and go File, and we'll go Export, and now what we'll do is we'll just complete the stupidity by doing it at 1 pixel per inch, and we'll go Export, Use Unique Names, and there we go. And then we will go to File, and we'll do it one last time. Getting bored, are we? And we'll do this one at 3000 pixels per inch, and we'll go Export, Use Unique Names. Ta-da! And there we go. So we will just change the order of those images, and then we will select the first one. Oh dear, name. Alright, go to date modified then. That should put them in order. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah. Okay, and let's go and open with a web browser. Let's go and open them with Google Chrome. And there we go, and we've got them all open. And let's just make them all look a little bit bigger. So, as you can see, they're all the same size, 1600 by 1067, and here is our 300 pixels per inch. Here's our 30 pixels per inch. Here's our 3 pixels per inch. Here's our 1 pixel per inch. And here's our image that is 3000 pixels per inch. Just need to get rid of that bar. And so you can see the images are all the same size in the browser, because the browser is only interested in the pixel dimensions. It couldn't give a monkeys about the actual resolution. The only time you will see the resolution become a variable, if you like, is when it comes to the physical size of the image. And if I go and right click and open with Photoshop 2020, now you'll see something of a difference. So here's Photoshop opening up, and click OK. Use embedded profile, use embedded profile, use embedded profile. Yes, yes, yes. Right. And so if I come to our 300 pixels per inch one, we can see that the resolution down here in the bottom left hand corner is 300 pixels per inch, and the physical size is 5.3 inches by 3.5 inches. If I now go to the 30 pixels per inch, you can see that the resolution down here in this left hand corner is 30 pixels per inch, but the image is now 53 by 35 inches. If I go to the next one, which is 3 pixels per inch, there you can see the resolution 3 pixels per inch, and we are at 533 inches by 355 inches. And here is a 1 pixel per inch image, which you can see 1 PPI, and it is now 1600 inches by 1057 inches. Now, as I was saying, there's so many experts out there, and I don't like the use of the word expert. I'm an ex-network marketer, as if you couldn't have guessed, and we used to take the mickey out of the word expert all the time, because all they used to say an expert was exactly that, an expert, and a spurt is nothing more than a drip under pressure. So I don't even count myself as an expert in anything. Some people tell me I'm an expert in things. I wish they wouldn't. I just know a lot. Alrighty. And so these experts tell you to, when you do a JPEG, to go on a website or on the internet, you do it at 72 pixels per inch. Well, as you can see, when you do an image at a set pixel dimension, the lower the resolution, the bigger the image would print. Yeah, not that a 1 pixel per inch image would look very good, because nobody's got a printer that big. But do you get me drift? Now watch this. Here is the 3000 pixel per inch image. And there you can see down at the bottom, 3000 pixels per inch, and the image, if it was printed out, would only be ½ an inch on the long edge, which in reality is what people who are worried about the safety of their images online are worried about. So really and truly, if Neil was to put this image up on a website somewhere, yeah, and people might be able to right click, save as, and send to a printer, in reality, because the thickos wouldn't know how to resample it, if they hit print, they'd get a print about the same size as a postage stamp. So when somebody tells you to do a website, internet-based JPEG at 72 pixels per inch, tell them to, you're far better off doing it at 720 pixels per inch, because it would just make it a lot smaller. Alrighty, now, so hopefully that's got resolution sort of a little bit clearer in your head. Now, the thing that people get that mixed up with, especially when it comes to printing and print output, especially out of Lightroom, because does anybody print out of Photoshop anymore? Wonder. The thing people get confused about is up-resing or upsizing, and they get that confused with upsampling or downsampling, which is resolution, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to come back to Lightroom, and I'm going to scoop this image straight in to Photoshop. So here's Neil's raw file brought into Photoshop, and you can see that it's brought in at its native size with a set resolution of 300 pixels per inch at 22.4 inches by 14.9 inches. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go image, and I'm going to go duplicate. Alright, so this is just a duplicate of that image. You can see it's the same size and the same number of pixels. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to up-res the image. And this is what people think is happening in the printer driver in Lightroom when we go and up the resolution from 300 to 360 or 720. This is what people think is happening, and believe you me, it isn't. So if I go to image, the best up-resing methodology in Photoshop will be image size, preserve details 2, and I'm going to change from 22.4 inches on the long edge, and I'm going to go to 60 inches. So I'm going to turn this into a 5-foot image. 5/12 being 60, and I'll leave the resolution at 300. You could actually go and change that to 360, but really and truly you probably want to do it at 720, but it doesn't really matter. For the sake of argument now, to demonstrate up-resing, it doesn't matter. So this takes a couple of minutes on my machine, so we'll just click OK, and there we go. And if we look down at the bottom, we can see that this is 300 pixels per inch, and it's now 60 inches by 40 inches. But here's what we've actually done. If we go to image and we go to image size, if we change this to pixels, you can see we've now increased the number of pixels up that long edge to 18,000 pixels on the long edge. So this is 18,000 by 12,000 pixels on the long edge, as opposed to the original, which was a lowly 6,720 by 4,480 pixels. Now, the thing is that people will always poo-poo up-resing because they think, oh God, oh. Now remember, we've done this up-resing with absolutely zero image prep in the first place, and we've done the up-resing using an okay method of up-resing, but it's not the best, and we haven't done anything really a little bit more intricate. So this is just absolute basic bog standard. Now if we go and have a look at Neil's original image, and we go and do that, and yes, we can see it is what it is. Nice gossip, Neil. But here's your kicker, and I've said this before. Look at the size of these Photoshop inches. Now those Photoshop inches are about 2.5 inches. It's crazy. So to actually view what this image would look like on a print, it wouldn't look this big. I can never remember what the value is exactly on mine, but I think it's 35.2% magnification. And those inches now are an inch apart. Don't use a metal ruler yeah, but use a piece of paper. I got a ruler anywhere? I don't think I have. But just mark an inch on a piece of paper, hold it up across your ruler, and change your magnification until these inches are an inch apart. You can't. Your magnification won't be the same as mine unless you're on a 27-inch ISO, because all monitors have got different pixel densities, so different pixel pitches, so it'll vary. But you always want to make sure that you are looking at your image when you up-res it, or when you want to view what it would look like as a print. You always want to be viewing it not at 100% on the monitor, because that's like standing way too close to the image. To get a reality for your viewing distance from your monitor, you need to be viewing it so the inches in the Photoshop rulers actually measure 1 inch physically, right? So if we adopt the same practice now for viewing magnification to the up-resed image, well, there you go. And I'm pretty certain you'll agree, it doesn't look any bloody different, does it? It does a little bit, but it needs sharpening. The original image needed sharpening as well, and needed a little bit of noise control on it. But in reality, this image looks atrocious at 100%. But again, look at these inches. They are miles bigger than an inch. So I can't remember, I've forgotten what it is again. Is it 35.2? 35.2. There you go. Print it out on paper. That is what it would look like, not what it looked like before. So I hope now that you understand the difference between upsampling, which can be thought of as changing the resolution in pixels per inch of an image which doesn't change its pixel dimensions, or up-resing, which changes the pixel dimensions but doesn't necessarily change the resolution. Alrighty. So in the next video, what I'm going to try and do is to start to pull this together for printing, but I also want to begin the video with looking at the fundamentals of your printer head resolution, because there is more misunderstanding and cloudiness surrounding dot resolutions on print heads than I just can't believe there is so much misunderstanding over it. So what we're going to do in the next video is hopefully clarify that. I think you might have found one or two things in this a bit of a surprise. I hope it's not gone on too long, but I'm certain it has. And this is why I'm breaking it up into multiple videos, because this video would be about an hour and a half long if I tried to address every point and issue that I need to get addressed. So there we go. Hope you've enjoyed that, guys. Hope you've found something useful. And as ever, I shall see you in the next video. So until then, tooroo.